Championships are only the beginning. Dynasty Road.
Welcome back to Dynasty Road. I'm Jordo. He's EFO. What's going on, dog?
What's up, man? How you doing?
We're doing good. So we want to welcome you back to the show this week, and please take a look at us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just look up Dynasty Road. We're Dynasty Road on all three of those platforms. And follow us. We're going to be uploading content on a weekly basis, as well as our main hub, which is the YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe. Give us a comment. We want to know what you are thinking. So please tell us what you are thinking, whether you agree or disagree with us.
Yeah, and we're not experts, so don't feel bad about hurting our feelings, especially if you disagree.
Because we have no feelings.
Exactly.
So here's the topic for today. We're looking back on the season. We are discussing the top 3 rookie disappointments for 2021, and then the top 3 rookie surprises for 2021.
And this is definitely our opinion. This isn't, this is just what we felt like was, a surprise and what we felt was a disappointment in some of these players.
Here's what we'll do. Efo's going to give you his top 3 surprises, and then I'm going to give you my top 3 surprises for the year. And then we're going to go into some detail talking about that. And then we'll spend probably half the show, the other half talking about the 3 disappointments from EFO, 3 disappointments from me. So EFO, lay it on me. What do you got?
So for my top 3 surprises this year, Amon-Ra, St. Brown.
Yep.
I don't see how you couldn't think of him as a surprise rookie. He was a 4th round pick for the Lions. He didn't come on strong at the beginning of the year. But then just towards the end of the season, he finished with in our fantasy Yahoo, he finished with over 227 points.
I got you.
Which, if you compare it to CeeDee Lamb, which did 232 points, there was only a 5-point differential.
That's crazy.
That's like a touchdown, so is CeeDee Lamb really better than St. Brown in a touchdown? Like if you had a redraft right now.
Okay, but here's my question. How many games did CeeDee Lamb play? How many did he miss? He probably missed
that. I did not see, but at the same time, I forgot to look that one up.
Yeah.
So sorry. Yeah. I can look that up right now though.
But even still, that's a tremendous
Brown
amount of...
also had Jared Goff as a quarterback and was doing horrible at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Right.
I even dropped him and picked him up again, just because he was just doing so bad. So it was more towards the end of the season that St. Brown really did come on.
No, that's true. Because he was a non-factor, probably the first 6 weeks of the season, at least.
Easily. So if CeeDee Lamb did miss some games, it still balanced out to, it was only a 5-point differential.
Yahoo says that he played all 16 games. Or he played 16.
So he missed one game.
He missed one game.
Yeah.
Let's look up. I'm on St. Brown. Okay, so he played 17 games. But if you look at his game log.
Yeah, it in the beginning of the season, it was
okay. Check this out. This was his game log. First game of the season was September 12th. He had 4 receptions for 23 yards, no touchdowns. He didn't get his first touchdown until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Week 11.
Week 11. Okay, I knew it was late in the year, but
so it was 4 for 23, 5 for 18, 1 for 2 yards.
That's probably where I dropped them.
Yeah, you're like, okay, this is pointless. 8 for 70, 8 for 65. So now he's starting to warm up a little bit. 7 for 26. You're like, that was the week you had him in your lineup because he had 2 weeks in a row, and you're like, okay, I want to jump on this bandwagon. And then he
nothing.
lays an egg. So then, 3 for 5. No, I'm sorry. 5 for 46, 6 for 61, 4 for 18, 4 for 23. And then he gets 12 for 86 and a touchdown.
Right.
You still don't trust him at that point.
No. And I think that was their first win too.
That might have been Boyle too.
The Lions' first win of the season as well.
Yeah, I don't know who was throwing him the ball. I think it was Boyle.
Yeah, maybe at that point, because I know Goff missed a few.
But from that point forward, that was like week 17, 16, 15.
11.
Like week 11. Yeah, that was week 11. Then he goes 12 for 73, no touchdowns, 11 for 90, a touchdown, 11 for 91, touchdown, 11 for 111, touchdown, 10 for 109, and a touchdown.
Right. Like all of a sudden, he just skyrocketed. And if you stuck with him,
yeah,
you were rewarded towards the end of the season. And I think going into next season, you have somebody who is at least a wide receiver 2, if not, 3.
Yeah. He was in the top 25. All right. So he finished.
He was? I thought he was actually didn't make it in the top 25.
No, for total fantasy points, he was 22nd.
Okay.
The 22nd wide receiver. And probably from week 11 on. Yeah. The last 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
He was number 2.
Oh, see? Yeah.
Behind Cup.
Which is insane.
Cup
really? So of the last 4 weeks of the season, he was still better than Jamar Chase?
Yeah, Jamar Chase was 5th. It went Cup, Brown, St. Brown, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Jamar Chase. And
wow.
Cup had 135
Chase
points.
Had a ridiculous last few weeks too.
Right.
You felt that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but he was ahead of Justin Jefferson, Diggs, Metcalf. All right. So,
and thinking about where he was probably drafted, I looked back a little bit and he was going in the 3rd round of rookie drafts. But you think about where he was drafted, what he went through in the beginning of the season, and then to finish where he did. I mean, that's even where he was drafted for real. Like, and so you think about the drafts coming up in the next, for the 2022 season, doing the research, looking at these guys, you could hit a 3rd round pick. Like, because he was a 3rd round pick on a lot of the redrafts, the rookie drafts. He was going in the 3rd round. So it's like all of a sudden now you get a guy like that in the 3rd round of your rookie pick. That's not a bad.
Yeah. And that's really that's about where he was going. He was drafted in our 12 team league, 212th in the 18th round.
Yeah. Right.
So if you want to dominate your league, that's the kind of value that you need. Yeah. He was not drafted by you though.
No, he was not, but I did trade for him.
Okay. So
I did really ask for him in the trade. So
that's a great example. And he was, let me see, I believe he was one of mine too. But anyway, okay. So I can't argue with you that much really on that one. So what's your number 2 surprise rookie of the year?
Probably Mac Jones. And I know it's tough to think of him as a surprise, but I think just for what his expectations were, where he was drafted being, the 5th, quarterback in the draft class and things like that. Not a lot of people giving him that much of a chance at the beginning of the season. I think what he was doing, I mean, yeah, as the number one quarterback, I wouldn't sit there and say, yeah, go for it. And still, like Lance and Lawrence and Wilson could still be a number one quarterback, given, their talent. But Mac Jones and the situation he was going to and everything, I think he handled that well. And I think he did better than Lawrence. He did. I mean, obviously, it's not much to say he was better than Baker. But it's like, he was better than Roethlisberger. He was better than Ryan. And who would you rather have in a dynasty setup? Would you rather have Ryan or Baker or those guys, or at least a Mac Jones who showed that he could do something? And even if he's like, your third quarterback, that's not that bad.
Right.
And next year he could become a number two.
He was drafted 61st. So he was the first pick in the 6th round in our 12-team league. He ended up being the 17th quarterback in fantasy points. He had his ups and downs.
He did.
But I would say that he was strong at the end of the year. Week 12, he had 25 points. And then he week 13 was the Buffalo week in the storm, in the hurricane.
Yeah.
So he threw like 8 passes. So he was 0.46 in that points in that game. But then you got 21. Then they had the bye week in 14. Then 15 was 21 points. Week 16 was 5 points. And then week 17, if you were able to make it into the championship round, he had 28 points.
Right.
And
so, but if you think about what all the other rookies did, other rookie quarterbacks did this season,
he was number one.
Right.
He was number one. Trevor Lawrence was number 2, but there was about a 50-point difference between them.
Yeah. So a couple of games, and both of them played 17 games. It wasn't like, so in terms of him did he go to the right situation? Did he go to the right coaching staff? Yeah. I mean, if there was a normal quarterback, would he have thrown, 3 or 4 times in that Buffalo game? No. If it was a normal quarterback, he would have thrown more, but they were also trying to protect the rookie and they felt like they could run on him. I think, unfortunately, that was kind of the Patriots' undoing, pulling off that game with the win, because after that, they just kind of got spanked around.
Here's what I would counter with, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people. So we're talking dynasty.
Right.
So I have to address the listener here. If you're looking at this from a standard league viewpoint, you're going to say he wasn't really much of a surprise. He was the 17th quarterback. He finished 17th, and in a 10-team standard league, he probably wouldn't even be on most people's teams. But what we're talking about is dynasty.
Right.
So let me just give you this, EFO. He finished 17th, but here were some of the quarterbacks that were ahead of him. And you tell me if you would rather have Mac Jones or the other quarterback, okay?
Okay.
All right. So believe it or not, so finishing 16th was Lamar Jackson. $274 versus $271. Lamar Jackson did miss some games.
Miss a few games.
Okay. Now
that's almost a push.
He played 12 games. Lamar Jackson did. So if you take his 274 divided by 12, he averaged 22.8 points a game.
Okay.
Whereas if you take Mac Jones, he's at 271 over 17, right? 271 divided by 17. He's at 15.9 versus 22.8.
Right. And that's why it's a kind of a push to me.
You got to commit, though. Commit to one of them.
Because Mac Jones is younger, but you have the rushing upside. Yeah, I guess I'll go with Lamar.
Okay. It doesn't take away from what you're saying.
Right. But I think if I'm, if I'm thinking, okay, if I'm doing a startup dynasty league, and you're talking about probably Lamar third roundish, maybe second.
Well, think of it this way. Had Lamar Jackson played all 17 games, you would have had another 110 points added on to his 274. So now he's at 384, and that puts him in the top 10.
That's why, I think you have to go Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's tough because the injury, the throwing isn't great. It's not bad. I mean, I don't think he has the right wide receivers to throw to. I mean, he loves his tight end.
But what happens to him when he gets older and he can't run as much?
Right. But that might not be for another couple of years. So I'd probably still go Lamar Jackson.
Okay. All right. And I would too. All right. Russell Wilson.
He scares me right now. So I think I'd go Mac Jones.
Derek Carr.
Mac Jones.
Ryan Tannehill.
Mac Jones.
Carson Wentz.
Mac Jones.
Jalen Hurts.
You know how I feel about Jalen Hurts. But again, it's almost a push. So I guess just the running ability, I'd have to go Hurts.
I'd go Hurts too, and here's why. Towards the end of the season, the coaching staff figured out the offense. They were the number one rushing offense during the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And so they started to utilize him the way that he is wired.
I think so, yeah.
And that being the case, I'd have to go Jalen Hurts, because if that continues, he's going to be a beast.
Oh, he can be. And he has that potential, I mean, this year was definitely a frustrating year if you were an Eagles fan watching it. And if you had Jalen Hurts on your team as a dynasty, you were probably frustrated as well. But I think the upside is definitely more there, and that's dynasty. It's like you're not playing for one season, you're playing for 3 or 4. So yeah, I think you'd have to go Hurts.
Okay, I'm gonna twist you into a pretzel with this one. Kyler Murray.
You go Murray.
Oh, okay. That was easier than I thought.
Well, I had my feelings about Kyle Murray, but I mean, if you're looking at it between Mac Jones and Kyle Murray, I'm taking Kyle Murray.
Okay, I would too. Kirk Cousins.
He might even be gone from the Vikings, so I would go Mac Jones.
I go Mac Jones. Joe Burrow. Yeah. So now we're getting into the top 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Joe Burrow.
I think other than maybe Brady, I think you take the top 10 quarterbacks other than
let's
Mac
see.
Jones.
Let's see. Because Kirk Cousins was number 10.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I would go Burrow. Dak Prescott. Yeah, I guess so. I would too. Aaron Rodgers.
If he doesn't retire, probably Aaron Rodgers for like one more year or two if he goes, but I'm going to go crazy. I'm just going to say Mac Jones.
I'm going to say Mac Jones. I don't have a problem passing Aaron Rodgers, passing on him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's that whole adage. You'd rather be a year or two too early than a year or two too late.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, with Mac. Yeah. I guess with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
Matt Stafford.
I'd probably keep Stafford.
So Matt Stafford, I was very high on him this year. And just speaking from an overall disappointment, surprise standpoint, he was a disappointment to me. I mean, he scored 413 points, but I was expecting him to finish top 3, really.
Yeah.
And he was
I mean,
fifth.
he had the team around him in order to do that.
I thought he could have broken 500 fantasy points.
Yeah.
He did throw up a couple stinkers a few weeks, and
yes, he did. But I mean, he did that in Detroit. And yes, Stafford is an upgrade for Goff, as you saw with what Goff did in Detroit, but he's still Matt Stafford, though.
I think he's better than what people.
What is he, like 25, 26 years old, though?
No,
I think Stafford.
No. He's 1988, so he's 31. No, he's 33.
30?
He's
Okay.
33.
All right, I thought he had a couple more years. I thought he was a little bit younger.
No. He was in Detroit a long time. Okay.
I guess so.
So in
That
this
ages you too.
for yes, oh man. You know what? I'm disappointed in him, so I'm going to go Mac Jones over Stafford.
Okay. All right.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Herbert.
Herbert.
No,
I mean,
no.
he disappointing in the last game, but I mean, I think the upside is more there.
Oh, for sure. Brady.
Mac Jones.
And Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Okay. All right. So we would take, so like out of the top 10, I would take Mac Jones over 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top 10 quarterbacks. You would take him over 1, 2. Brady and Cousins. So
no, I said what's his name too.
Who?
Green Bay guy.
Oh, Rodgers. You would take Mac Jones over him? Okay. Oh, that's right. Because
I said it was better to be too early than too late.
That's right. Now, as you start to go down from 11 to 20, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. For me, there was 4. There was 4 players. For you, there was 3 that you would have taken ahead of him. And then after him, I mean, it's almost a no-brainer. Garoppolo.
Yeah, taking Mac Jones.
Roethlisberger, obvious.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Mac Jones. Yep.
Heineke.
Yep. Jones.
Bridgewater. Goff.
Yep. Jones.
Yep. And then you get to Trevor Lawrence.
Which.
Now there's a discussion right there. Who would you take?
You take Lawrence.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. If I'm doing my initial fantasy draft, dynasty draft this year coming up.
Right now, like starting for the 2022.
Yeah, coming up. And we're in the well, I mean, Lawrence is probably going to go in the second round, maybe.
Well, he did in our league, but he was a rookie. So now they've already seen a year. So maybe he goes in the third, fourth.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I take Mac Jones over Lawrence.
He definitely has a rougher time than Mac Jones because one, you're dealing with the Jaguars. You don't know who the head coach is going to be. And it is the Jaguars, where Mac Jones is dealing with New England and Belichick and Daniels. And yeah, so I can see that. But I think who and I guess that goes back to the whole talent situation kind of thing. Like
Mhm.
Trevor Lawrence is probably the more talented quarterback, like, maybe better arm angle, better strength, better, vision or whatever. But Mac Jones has enough in the situation he's in, could get you more. And at the end of the day, it's fantasy points that matters, not
The
real
thing that
life.
does it for me is that Mac Jones has shown me this year, his level of learning ability all the way back to training camp. His ability to take his mistakes, learn from them quickly, take the coaching, become a leader, and improve. I think he's very intuitive, and I think he's very intelligent in that way. He
Okay.
doesn't make a lot of the same mistakes over and over and over again. Whereas Lawrence has not proven that to me, that he has that. And I'm not saying it's his fault, and I'm not saying he doesn't have the ability. He hasn't. If I'm going to draft somebody, I feel more secure based on the body of work between the two to go with Jones.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. I mean, I can understand that. I think, yeah.
Okay. Who's your third guy?
It was actually Khalil Herbert.
Okay. Khalil
And
Herbert.
it was only Khalil.
There's a lot of H's and there's a lot of
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I am the worst when it comes to pronouncing.
That's why you got me.
And only because, I mean, he really didn't do too much. But he was was he a 7th round pick? I think he was. No, he was a 6th round pick. He was number 217
In real life.
6th round pick. Huh?
In real life.
In real life, he was a 6th round pick. So he was not on anybody's real radar when it came to dynasty football for the most part. Like, I don't think he was even drafted in redraft leagues for maybe towards the end of the 3rd round, you could have gotten him, but he did a lot. I mean, he didn't get a lot with fantasy points, but and I put him in there because he did do a good amount while he was actually playing for a little bit. He had some ups and down games. But when Montgomery was injured for a little while, Herbert was in there and he could catch the ball. He ran the ball close to 100 yards, was catching the ball out of the backfield, decent points. But Montgomery's a restricted free agent at the end of the 2022 season.
Okay.
And, you're looking at a 26-year-old running back who's going to be at the end of his contract. Whereas you have a rookie who kind of showed that he could do some decent things on the field and is going to save you. I think, if they release Montgomery or whatever, they save like $1 million in cap space. And it's like Herbert's only cap hit is not even $700,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, so for me, it's like, he came out and he was kind of a surprise that he did as good as he did where he was drafted. And he has a chance to actually get more at, depending on what Chicago does with their running back with Montgomery. But I mean, the fact that he's on his last year of his deal, that could open up the door a lot more.
I absolutely agree with you. Now, he's not on my list, but he was an honorable mention. He was one of the guys that I had listed that I edited, trimmed off. Here's what he did while he was in there. I'm going to give you the stats. And then, so he did in week 2, 18 rushes for 75 yards, no touchdowns, no catches. Okay. So seven points.
Yep.
The next week, he was 97 yards, 19 rushes, 97 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches for 15 yards. Nice game. And then next game, he had 100 yards, no touchdowns, 5 receptions for 33 yards.
And that's the Tampa Bay game, right? Where they got destroyed too.
That's right.
Which was kind of interesting that he was able to get that many yards, even though they got destroyed by Tampa Bay. I think they scored 3 points. Yeah. Chicago did. in that game. So it's like I saw that. I was like, see, that's something that he can do.
And here's what I would add to that. When I watched the games, because they were playing Green Bay and Tampa Bay, those 2 weeks they were on TV.
Right.
He was absolutely electric. Like
he was.
I was watching, I was enthralled by the way that he was running. He had this amazing gear that he could tap into. He reminded me a lot of Tony Pollard, like when you watch Pollard versus Ezekiel Elliott. Pollard's just like, he's like a bullet.
Right.
And I was like, oh, Khalil Herbert. I was like, this guy looks really good. So I would say if you're in a dynasty league, absolutely see if you can get your hands on this guy.
Right. And that's why he was kind of a surprise. Like, he didn't have the greatest stats. He didn't have the greatest, but you can definitely see potential there. A lot of potential.
Yeah. All right.
That's why he made mine. I had an honorable mention of Eli Mitchell. Elijah.
Yes.
Because that's another 6th-round guy that,
talk about him.
He stepped up.
Okay. So those are your guys. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Mac Jones, and Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Top 3 surprises for rookies this year. So let me give you mine. My first and top guy was Eli Mitchell.
Okay.
He scored 165 fantasy points in our league. It's a PPR league. Here's the thing. So we're not just talking about their performances. We're talking about whether they were a surprise or not.
Exactly. Right.
And this guy was not mentioned anywhere. I mean, I bought like 5 fantasy magazines before the season started. I was online. I thought this guy was a veteran. When some of the other guys got injured, I thought he was like, like a low-level veteran.
Practice squad guy or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Got called up.
And to find out he's a rookie, it's like, how did he get fly under the radar? And it was like Trey Sermon. Unreal. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even during the season, I wasn't even making any kind of effort to get this guy. It took me about 13, 14 weeks, 12 weeks to finally kick in and say, oh, this guy's a rookie. This guy's good. I should try to trade for him. So he was a huge surprise. Surprise.
He really was. Like, and I think he got injured a little bit too, if I remember. So I think he missed a couple of games. Of course, everybody in the San Francisco backfield seemed like they got injured.
Yeah, they need to hire a conditioning coach, I think.
Exactly.
Okay, so he averaged 15 points a game, and that put him at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. He was the 16th running back in fantasy points. And in our league, he was not drafted.
Yeah, no. Yeah. He was definitely on the waiver wire.
He was picked up the first week and he was traded twice.
Yep. I think he had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 games that he did nothing. One game where he got, he actually did, actually more than 4 games he did nothing. But I think there was a couple of games he didn't even play in.
Yeah,
but when he did play, he'd get 8 points and then 16 points, then 19 points, then 12 points, then 9 points. I think his best one was 27 against Minnesota.
Yeah, he played 11 games and he still finished 16th.
Right.
And bear this in mind, our league had a 30-round draft and he wasn't drafted.
He was not drafted.
Here's some of the people that were drafted. So he finished ahead of Ezekiel Elliott in average. Ezekiel Elliott was 14.89 points per game. He finished ahead of Antonio Gibson, Damian Harris, Kareem Hunt, Darrell Henderson, James Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson. They all averaged less points per game than him. Cordarrelle Patterson even averaged less.
Oh, wow. And he was like the waiver wire pickup of the year almost.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
For most teams. I mean, Dynasty, he was probably drafted in somebody's league, but
possibly. I mean, I'm in another Dynasty league. It's a 5-round rookie with IDP. He wasn't drafted.
Even with a 5-round?
Yeah, he wasn't drafted.
Oh, IDP though. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So that was my first guy. The second guy was your first guy, which was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay. So we've talked about him. So we agree on that. Here's my third guy, Javonte Williams.
Oh, yeah.
He had 205 fantasy points in our league, PPR. Why was he a surprise? He was a surprise because he was sharing the backfield. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, he was drafted in rookie leagues, in rookie drafts. People knew who he was. It's not like he came out of nowhere. But
I think he only started, I think only 3 games like all season. Everything else was like he just was in the rotation. Like, he played, I think, almost every game, but I think he actually only started like 2 or 3 games the whole entire season when Melvin Gordon got injured. Everything that he did was like almost like a 50-50 split backfield.
Yeah, he finished in total points for running backs in our league. He finished 16th. And he played, well, it does say that he played all 17 games.
Right. I'm just saying started. Like, I mean,
okay, right.
Yeah, where he started, I think it was only like 3 or 4 games. Everything else, like he did, it was literally split 50-50 with Melvin Gordon, and he would outproduce him. He would just outproduce him with.
He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in single-digit carries. So he really wasn't even a factor in those games. I mean, he had a few receptions, a couple receptions in those games, but from a fantasy point standpoint, it was a dud.
A few games, yeah.
Those games would have been duds. But then the games that he had, I mean, he had 200-yard rushing games. He had a 76-yard receiving game, a 57-yard receiving game. I mean, the 76-yard, so that was his monster game. That was like probably week 11 against Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think that was his actual game that he actually started.
Okay, he had 102 yards. He had 9 receptions, 76 yards, and a receiving touchdown. So you're looking at 16.
Yeah, because I think that was the one where it was
32.
like, this is what you could get with him if he was all by himself.
That's right.
And yeah, that was and like you said, though, he was known, but the fact that he was sharing, I think for the mostly with the Dynasty community, it was like, by the end of the season, he'll be the guy. The beginning of the season, you weren't going to get too much, but by the end, you were going to get it. And, then you'd be playing for next year almost. Whereas, the surprise is also that he came out and did such a good job his first season, that I think he's basically solidified that Gordon's going to be gone at the end of the, I don't think he's going to be on the team next year.
Yeah.
Because he is a free agent. So I don't know if they're going to re-sign him.
So those were my top three surprises. Let's talk about.
Very good. Very good.
What's that?
It's very good. Very good.
Okay. Let's talk about our disappointments. So I'm going to give you my three disappointments first.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
My first disappointment was number one was Trey Sermon. And the biggest reason for that was because of the hype.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where did he go? He went. Yeah, he was drafted 99th by me. And so that was the third pick in the 9th round. In a 10-team standard league, he probably wouldn't even be on your bench. So, but again, that's standard leagues. When you have a 12-team with maybe 3 wide receivers and 3 running backs and a flex spot, he's definitely on your team. You definitely drafted him. There's no doubt about that. Whether you drafted him in the 9th round or the 10th or the 15th round, some of those larger leagues, he could have been your 3rd running back.
Right. That you were planning on having produce for you.
And at the least, he could have been your flex player. So to see the way that he was used, I mean, he ended up with 28 fantasy points for the season. So
that's a disappointment.
And the way that his coach was talking about him, it did not sound like he had any confidence in the guy. It did not sound like they were working with him. It didn't sound like he had any plans of featuring him in the backfield.
I know he fell out of favor really quickly with that team. He fell out really quickly. So I don't know if it's a work ethic, just a personality, or, they saw what they had with Elijah Mitchell and they were just like, we're going to feed him the ball. I don't know exactly. I didn't follow it too much, but it was definitely, we're kind of moving on from you.
Yeah.
We're going to cut our losses.
Now, if you think that he might find an opportunity on another team, if you think he's going to get traded and you want to buy really low on him, then by all means do it. I mean, this is the perfect time.
Would you give up your 3rd round pick, rookie draft for him?
No,
you'd still rather have the rookie pick.
Yeah.
I think I would too.
If he was on another team, like if he got traded in the offseason, I would do that. So like if he got traded to Miami or he got traded to Seattle.
What about Arizona?
Yeah. The way that Chase Edmonds and Connor played this, the way they were utilized. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Because, with injuries and stuff. Okay. Number 2 was Trevor Lawrence. So he was drafted in the 2nd round by my good friend here.
Hey.
Feeling good.
Oh, yeah. I was like, yes.
And see, this is why he's such a disappointment. Because if you're playing in a dynasty league and last year was your initial draft, you can't wait on Lawrence. You couldn't sit on him. You had to nab him probably in the second or third round.
Right.
And now you're missing out. You're taking a spot where normally you would be drafting a guy that you can absolutely count on week in and week out. And most likely another in a 2-quarterback league, you're taking him over a quarterback that's going to be consistent for you, like a Kirk Cousins,
even a Joe Burrow, and I think was after him.
Yeah. Because Joe Burrow had question marks going into this season.
Exactly.
Nobody knew that he was going to have the season he had. They didn't know how he was going to come back from the injury. And they didn't know what kind of chemistry he was going to have with his receivers. They didn't know how the running game was going to be. They didn't know how their O-line was going to be. They didn't know how the coaching was going to utilize the team. So there was a lot of question marks. Right now, it's a no-brainer that you take Burrow over him. But last September, it was not a no-brainer. So I think, like in your case, I think that absolutely just killed your team.
Partly, yeah. I mean, having basically, I think he had 2 really good games where he did over 20 points. The first game of the season and the last game of the season.
Oh, man.
And I attribute that to Urban Meyer. Like, he didn't know exactly what to do for the first game, and he was gone by the last game. I mean, he had a couple of other games in between there, but I mean, like, for the most part, like he kind of bookended it with 2 fairly decent games, but that was about it. And yeah, he's on my list too of disappointments, but we can talk about that a little bit more. But
and number 3 was Justin Fields. So here's why it was a disappointment. I think that they should have put him in from the get-go. Put him in and develop a game plan that is designed around his skill set. Because when they actually did that, he performed very well. Darnell Mooney, I guess Allen Robinson was injured for part of the year, but it's like on paper, they've got good receivers. So it's not,
but Montgomery, Herbert.
I'm sorry. Okay. I got to start this over because Hawkinson's not on his team either.
Yeah.
I get Detroit and Chicago mixed up a lot.
They're close to each other.
Okay. So here's why. He does have I was going to say that he has a good young tight end in Kmet. I'm not sure about Komet's hands. I've watched the games and it's like this guy. I don't know if this guy's but I think maybe just because he wasn't getting as many opportunities as he could have when he was getting the ball thrown to him. There weren't always good passes either. But I mean, he's got Mooney, he's got Kmet, he has Robinson, he's got Montgomery, like you said. Coming out of the backfield. They could even run 2 with Herbert. They could run 2 running back sets.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why Nagy is gone. I don't think they utilized what they had. Yeah. Now, he also did look like a scared little boy in the pocket at times and was kept getting sacked, and it didn't seem like he knew the plan. But again, was that him, or was that part of the coaching staff not really going into what his strengths could be? It's like, okay, this is my philosophy. This is what I'm doing. You're going to have to fit that. And, sometimes that works. A lot of times it doesn't, though.
Yeah, most times it doesn't. Here's another reason why he's a disappointment is even if you're not in your initial draft, if you're in an established dynasty league, he was getting drafted probably about like 5th overall in your league, 4th, 5th,
Oh,
maybe
sometimes
even
a lot
first.
second.
Yeah.
It would like Lawrence Fields,
Yep.
occasionally Lawrence Lance, but yeah,
Yeah.
at least in the top 5 easily.
And so the league I'm in, it's a 2 quarterback league. And so if you're really hurting at quarterback, which the team that drafted him was, you're relying on him to fill that spot every week. And so this is where, okay, I think he went 4th in my league. So great. I got the 4th overall pick. I got Fields. I'm high on Fields. You've done all your research. You think he's actually better than Lawrence. And okay, last season was a bust. I'm going to draft this quarterback and I'm going to get back on track this year.
Yeah, that did not happen, unfortunately.
So that's why he's such a disappointment for me, especially when, I guess Andy Dalton is good, but it's like, it's Andy Dalton. It's not like you got Rodgers or Brady or Russell Wilson there, and they've still got a good, 2-3 years or more left in the tank. It's like, it's Andy Dalton. It's like, Case Keenum, or having, I don't even Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's just like, just put the kid in there and let him learn. You have a good offensive line.
Yeah, and that probably goes to show that there wasn't, between coaching staff and probably ownership or something, that there was definitely a disconnect. Because like, you have this kid, put him in there. Throw him in there like Lawrence. Just start, like you said, make a game plan for him, put him in there, let him go. But I think it was that whole, let's see what we have with this guy, with Dalton, see if we can let him sit for a year.
And you were talking about how in the pocket he seemed a little scared. Well, my question is, how many quarterbacks these days just stand in the pocket and throw, or step up into the pocket? They don't do that anymore. Brady, Rodgers, that's a lost art to do that. It's all bouncing out of the pocket to extend the play. That's what you're seeing from everybody, and that's his skill set. So it's like, what's the big deal? That's what the league is doing now. So just formulate a plan that allows him to do that.
Some guys just can't do it, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's not on the team anymore. That coach got fired. It's like Nagy's gone.
Yeah.
Now, like, it's a little bit different with if you had, like, with Trey Lance. Trey Lance, they drafted him knowing he was going to sit for at least a year. The organization knew it. Like, everyone knew Garoppolo was going to be the guy. And Trey Lance, yeah, maybe if Garoppolo got injured, that would be different. But he was going to sit. He was going to get groomed, and he would be the eventual quarterback. But with Fields, it was like the second they drafted him, it's like, yeah, he's already over Andy Dalton. There is no like what's he going to learn from Andy Dalton anyway? How to make it to the playoffs and not win? I mean, like, that's about it. So yeah, just start him in there, throw him to the wolves kind of thing. And
so maybe instead of Fields being my number 3, it should be Nagy.
There you go.
All right. So those are my 3 rookie disappointments for the year. Lay it on me. What do you got?
Again, my number 1 guy was Trevor Lawrence as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it, it's like Davis Mills only had like 38 points less than him, played in 4 games less.
Oof.
So it's like, you went with Davis Mills. Like her fantasy total was around the Davis Mills. Just like that's just insane. Like it was such a bad season for them.
Mills is a candidate for surprise, one of the surprises. I mean, he did
True.
But
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Like, but like, and again, like, you know, depending on where they were drafted, like, I mean, Lawrence, he's going second, third rounds in your startup dynasty drafts. In your rookie drafts, if you already have one, he's going number one, maybe number two, but mostly number one. Mills in your startup might not be taken until 15th, 16th.
Oh, easily.
Round, maybe not even drafted.
Right.
You know, in your rookie redrafting, he's definitely going in the end of the third round, if even drafting. So it's like when we talk about, we were talking earlier about ADP, you know, and just like where the value is, it's like what Trevor Lawrence was giving you compared to what Mills gave you. It was such a disappointment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kyle Pitts is my second guy. And, you know, he finished the top 6 in tight ends.
Yeah.
He did. Like, but where he was drafted as number 4, like the hype around him, like Freiermuth.
Yeah.
Okay, Freiermuth is 24 points away, and he played in less games, and he had Ben Roethlisberger throwing to him.
Okay, so Dalton Schultz and Zach Ertz both finished ahead of Pitts in fantasy points.
Right. Now, granted, and it's like, and you think of Freiermuth, who, it was a 24-point thing, but like he had Najee Harris, Claypool, Johnson, all eating away from him. And, you know, you want to compare a rookie tight end. It's like, who would you rather have spent the draft capital on? Probably Freiermuth.
Oh, I mean, Freiermuth's he's going in the last couple rounds, you know?
Exactly. But it's like, you know, in terms of production and where he was, it's like so Kyle was just Kittle finished above Kyle. And it's like, and he missed like almost 4 games. Like it was just insane.
Yeah.
And you could sit there and say, oh, well, you know, Atlanta, that was the only guy they could focus in on. But at the beginning of the season, they had Calvin Ridley. They had Cordell Patterson blowing the doors off of everything.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan wasn't a shell of himself yet. Like they just didn't know how to either utilize him, or
they have a pretty bad offensive line, but I'm not even saying that is a reason. It's just, it's not the reason why he disappointed to the extent that he did.
Right. And I mean, granted, if some people would take, hey, my guy finished 6th. Okay. I'll take that as a tight end.
Would you though? When you drafted him, he got drafted in the 3rd round, number 2. So he was 26th overall.
Right. That's why he's a disappointment. It's more of a disappointment of where he was drafted, what the expectation was, not only drafted in the fantasy, but in real life too, like the hype around him. It just fell flat. Now, granted, tight ends, same thing with wide receivers. It takes a little time to get them seasoned. This is a very good tight end. He's showing a lot of upside. If you have him in your dynasty league, you're happy to have him. But was he a disappointment this season? Yes, he was.
Yeah.
In terms of dynasty and what you were expecting.
Freiermuth went in the 13th round.
Yeah.
So just to give you some reference there.
Devontae Smith.
Okay.
That was my 3rd.
All right. What's your reasoning on that?
In a dynasty startup, some guys probably took him for like their number 2 wide receiver, maybe even 1 wide receiver. It was the Heisman winner, the hype around him. And yeah, he did better than Claypool and AJ Brown. But again, AJ Brown missed 4 to 6 games more than he played. And he was around, you think about Devontae Smith and what, the Heisman winner and what everybody thought he was going to be. He finished near Jacoby Myers and Kendrick Bourne in fantasy points.
Yeah,
you're a stud 30th. Wide receiver. Like, is that what you were expecting with a stud wide receiver who, is coming into the league and, coming off of such a great college career? It's a more of a disappointment that you thought you're going to have him. And then you look at what Waddle and what Chase did. It's like, okay. And this is also one of those things where maybe he was just overhyped, because this is one of those high wide receivers who did stay for the 4 years in college, and he had his best year in his 4th year, won the Heisman. So here he is picking on, younger talent around him on the defensive side, where he probably made a more of a name for himself than maybe his talent even let on, because he was already a 4-year guy as a wide receiver.
He had 9 games where he scored single digits.
Yeah. But I think when we were talking earlier about Hurts, and the same thing kind of with Fields, like not having a good game plan, like not really figuring out what they had. At least the Eagles started to kind of figure that out towards the end of the season and what their identity was a little bit.
Yes.
But then their playoff game, Smith, I think, got like, he didn't get it. He wasn't even targeted until I think the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, it's kind of.
So it's like, is that him, or is that the quarterback or the coaching staff? So that's why I put him as a disappointment.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because he was around the 30th wide receiver in points. Let's say I had Terry McLaurin, would you trade Devontae Smith for McLaurin off your team?
Me, no, because I'm still dealing with Dynasty. I would rather have the upside of Devontae Smith over McLaurin, who might get a new quarterback, but he might be a rookie.
But McLaurin's still young. He's only his 3rd year.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I prefer Hurts as a quarterback throwing the ball to Smith than Hinkie or add rookie whoever.
Okay. How about this?
Now, granted, if all of a sudden Washington can land like Russell Wilson, or, something like that, okay, go for it. Yeah, I'll take McLaurin. End up taking McLaurin. But
AJ Brown finished below him. Would you trade him away for AJ Brown?
Yes, I tried.
Okay. I know how you're going to answer some of these already. So what about Claypool, Chase Claypool?
I'd take Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, yeah, as of right now, yes. Again, if they can get a half decent quarterback,
yeah,
to replace Roethlisberger, that's one thing. If it's a rookie quarterback to replace Roethlisberger, there's going to be definitely growing pains. So I would take Devontae Smith.
Here's one for you. Would you, if someone offered you, let's say you did not have Amon-Ra St. Brown on your team, and someone offered you him for Devontae Smith?
That's a tough one. Because the hype is, not the hype, the potential is still so much better with Smith and Hurts than Goff and St. Brown. And even if Goff is replaced, again, it's going to go. Yeah, I'd have to say no for that one too.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
What about
He's a
CJ?
disappointment, but I don't want to just give him up for nothing.
What about Michael Pittman?
That would be an interesting one. Michael Pittman for Devontae Smith. That would be an interesting one. I'd have to take a look at it. But again, it's, Wentz, he's done a lot better. Except he finally choked at the last game of the season.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, you only need one game to win to get into the playoffs. Oh, okay. You're gonna choke and lose to the Jaguars. Sounds good.
That's horrible. That is horrible.
The one team that really nobody wanted to see because of Jonathan Taylor in the playoffs, you lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and you don't make it in.
Unreal. Yeah. Well, here's just one last one, because you made a little comment when I drafted this guy, and I didn't even reach for this guy. He fell to me in the 9th round. Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Would you keep Smith or would you take Samuel? Because when I drafted him, you were like, Deebo Samuel, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it was the 9th or 10th round. I was like, yeah. And he's the number 3 wide receiver.
Well, he's had a huge, ridiculous year. It's and a lot of that was not a lot, but a good amount was a part of his rushing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the rushing that he did yesterday.
No, I didn't.
On that game. It's again, it was he split 2 defenders. He's just ridiculous. I would probably actually really consider that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to really think about that one. That I think I actually might do that. I think I actually could do that. We'll say a yes with that one, since you want to have definitive answers.
Yes, thank you.
Not that I'm going to, but I think I would do that.
Well, I don't own them, so I can't offer them.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, even if someone did offer them, that doesn't mean just because I said I would do it now, I would actually do it on my team.
Yeah. All right. So that's the 3 surprises and disappointments for the rookies this year. So
let us know what you think. Let us know
please.
If we got something wrong, if you agree, if you didn't disagree, who you thought. I'd like to hear from you.
And visit us on all our platforms. Like it, love it, comment, sub it, do all that stuff. And we will see you in the next episode.
Sounds good. See you.
You have a top 3 tight end. And Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Redmond. Oh no, that's Detroit.
Yeah.
So these are our 3 disappointments, 3 surprises, and it brings me to a point where
You want me to say my third? We don't have to. We can just...
Yes, please.